Tonight we've got a failed and former CNN broadcaster, Don Lemon. Everyone knows him. Well, he's joined an anti-ICE protest which stormed a church, but he's escaped all charges.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. In the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nikema stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission.
But of course, no accountability for the thuggery of invading a place of worship because the judge just threw out the charges. Now, to discuss Lemon's fall from mainstream television stardom to reckless street-level activism, I am joined by the founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, Adam B. Coleman. Adam, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, what is happening in America with all of these protests against ICE, against what the public voted in and asked for the president to do? And what is up with the media seemingly encouraging a lot of it?
Well, when it comes to Donald Trump, every day is opposite day. So if Trump is strong in immigration, everyone has to take the opposite position. It would actually really benefits leftists because many of the leftists are open border advocates. They like going against ICE. And so what they've allowed is politicians like Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, to go on television and pretend as if there's no problem within that city or within that state, as if there's no problem within the country as far as illegal immigrants running through our country. So it is a legitimate problem, so much so that it was essentially the mandate for the president to actually use ICE to do exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And that's what they're doing now.
Now, Adam, you often hear these stories in the media, the same media which does, in my opinion, encourage a lot of these violent and thuggish protests. You hear a lot of rhetoric about men being the problem. But I want to go to a story now which is kind of inverting that perception. It's called The Rise of Assassination Culture, which is the tolerance of the politically motivated violence that we've been seeing across America. Fox reports that in America, 67% of left-leaning respondents see political violence as justified compared to 54% on the right. Not good for either side, but obviously it's skewed to the left. And according to the Network Contagion Research Institute, women overall were about 15% more likely to support assassination culture. And that's 14.8% for Trump and 21.2% for Mamdani. Now, Fox also wrote in this article, while support for assassination culture is on the rise on both sides of the political spectrum and across both genders, the study found it especially pronounced on the left and among women of any ideology. Now, Adam, I really want to get your thoughts on this because this is fascinating to me, and I do think it's a broader issue where we're being told that men are being radicalized and dragged to the right, but it does appear that there is a lot of radicalization on the left. And when you're reaching levels of the 60% of people that think political violence in some form is okay, I think you have a massive problem in that community.
Yeah, that study is interesting because men tend to be more violent than women, physically violent, I should say. And so when you look at something like this, obviously this is about their thoughts and their feelings, not actions. And so in many ways, this sounds almost like, social media is social. Women are more social than men are. And so here you have as I said, like a contagion where you have an environment where you can breed this fantasy of carrying out violence against people that you don't like. And as I said, is bipartisan. I do think that social media has a role in that. And you get around certain social circles where people start speaking a particular way. And then language becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And, I tend to find that women are more likely to be on social media longer than the average guy. So this doesn't surprise me.
Adam, thank you so much for your time.